Hello everyone and welcome back to video 2 in my Which Line Should You Collect series. Today we're going to be going over Star Wars The Black Series. If you didn't know, Star Wars The Black Series is a Hasbro owned line similar to the Vintage Collection, but instead of being 3.75 it is 6 inches. You can see quite a few of the figures up there, as this is a line that I do collect as well as TBC and Hot Toys. So it's something that I know quite a lot about. I used to have a much bigger collection, although I did sell them just to focus on Hot Toys because that's the scale I do prefer. We're going to be going into the pros and cons of Black Series and why you should collect it or you shouldn't collect it. Without further ado, let's get to the pros. So moving on to the first pro, which is character selection. Out of the two Hasbro lines, their Black Series is the character focused one. I mean, this is kind of obvious because it's a lot harder to do vehicles and creatures and playsets in 1/12 scale. So they just focus more on figures, which, if you're someone who wants to build out characters, build out scenes, that's pretty good, you know? You're going to be able to get all the characters that you want. Every now and again you will have an odd case where TVC gets a figure that Black Series doesn't. For example, Tessic, or most of Jabba's denizens, we just don't have those in Black Series yet. And HK-47, which is a big one for me because I really want him to kind of round out my KOTOR display. But yeah, most of the time you are just going to get every figure that you want. Or maybe not every figure, but most of them. For example, this year, 2026, we haven't got much OT. Actually, I don't know if we've got a single OT figure so far, which is kind of insane. But we've got a ton of prequel trilogy like Watto, the Geonosian. We've got a lot of KOTOR, which I'm very happy about. You know, we've got the Nihilus and Traya 2-pack, we've got the Mission and Carth 2-pack. We've got quite a bit of Clone Wars as well, with a new ARC Trooper build-up pack that just got announced. We also just got an AT-RT as well. Really cool for those Clone Wars fans that want it. I'm not much of a fan. And of course, nice bit of new media as well with Mandalorian and Grogu. We're getting a very nice variety, which I like. If you are a sequel trilogy fan, you might be a little bit disappointed. We haven't really had any sequel trilogy figures since, I think, 2020 with Darkseid Rey, which is kind of insane to say. But, you know, fingers crossed they will do some soon. Maybe with Starfighter coming next year. There is a rumoured First Order Stormtrooper redo. So, fingers crossed for you sequel trilogy fans. The other thing as well is that, like, we don't really get much OT at the moment. Granted, that will be changing next year with, you know, the 50th being 2027. But in terms of new OT characters, we haven't had one since Mos Eisley, which was 2024. Granted, we did have the redos of the main crew from A New Hope, Star Wars 77 if you're really based. So I'm glad we have got those out of the way, but they're going to re-release them in anniversary packaging, so kind of weird to do them twice, but I guess it's an easy way to make more money for Hasbro. But yeah, so if you are an OT fan, you have a lot of figures at the moment, which is good, but there is just a bit of a dry spell until next year. But if you are just starting out the line, there's a lot to catch up on, which is really good. And some of my favourite Black Series figures like OT, like the Han Solo and Chewbacca up there that came out last year, amazing figures, they're so good. I also do have a review out on them, so go and watch that after this video. But yeah, character selection is great for Black Series. It is their bread and butter. There are some kind of interesting missing ones, like we still don't have Nien Nunb, we still don't have Lobot. Fingers crossed they'll come next year for the 50th, but they really do need to happen. Added onto this as well, distribution. It's really easy to find Black Series figures. Every now and again you will have like a Comic-Con exclusive or a Pulse exclusive that is kind of hard to get, like the Revenge of the Sith set from last year. but 99% of figures, it is easy to find. You can find them in store, places like Walmart, the other shops in America that I can't think of, but you know, most big box retail places will have them. Fan channel as well, so places like Big Bad Toy Store, Star Action Figures, In Demand Toys. It is really easy to find Black Series online. And not to mention that Fan Channel just kind of like, they have their own figures and waves that are like exclusive to them. So for example, the Watto, Toonway and Geonosia wave, that is completely exclusive to Fan Channel, so you can get it on Amazon, Star Action Figures, you know, Big Bad Toy Store, the ones I've named before. So that is really good for doing characters that wouldn't really work well on like a store shelf, like Watto for example, because I don't know about you guys, but as a kid, I wasn't really going up to the toy store shelf and going, do you know what, I'd take Watto over Darth Vader. So it means that, you know, kind of Black Series can do these more like characters that are less desirable. I wouldn't personally agree with that, but some people will put it that way. So for example, Watto, the Geonosian, Toonway, characters that just would rot on store shelves. And then the final pro of Black Series is the fact that we're starting to get more vehicles, which is really good. We just got an AT-RT revealed, and that is going to be a Comic-Con exclusive, I believe. I think. But yeah, you know, stuff like that. We're getting that. We got the Stap, we got Maul Speeder. We have a rumoured Mandalorian and Grogu AT-RT as well. So we are starting to get more of this like cool stuff that usually would just be kind of reserved for the vintage collection, you know? Which is really good. I'm glad we're getting stuff like this. Stuff like the diorama sets as well. It just means that there's more kind of variety to what you can buy. And granted, yeah, there are going to be some things that are just way too big, like the X-Wing, like the Republic gunship, because for some reason people really want a 1/12 scale one, even though it would be massive. It would nearly take up this entire room. And I have a pretty big room. It would be massive. Anyway, side tangent aside, the amount of new stuff that we're getting from Black Series is so cool, and it really makes me kind of want to go back and dip in and get these things. Granted, of course, keep to what you want, you know. If you're like OT only, don't go out buying the Mandalorian and Grogu AT-RT just because you want an AT-RT. Well, I guess if you really want the Mandalorian and Grogu one, go get it, but, you know, stick to what you're comfortable with. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy these other things just because other people are hyping it up. Like, I have a pretty small Black Series collection, and the amount of people like hyping up something like Quinlan Vos, for example, it looks like a really cool figure and I could appreciate it from afar, but, you know, I want to stick to what I collect. I don't want to kind of go out into Clone Wars and stuff like that. But yeah, I think overall Black Series has a lot more pros than any other line, I think. It has just amazing articulation, mostly amazing paint. Every now and again you will have characters missing paint, like Commander Cody, pretty much any character I can think of off the top of my head. Moving on to the cons. The first con is kind of a con, kind of a pro, depends on how you feel about the subject. And that is HasLab. Black Series has had 2 HasLabs, both failed, so we haven't had another one since. You know, hopefully next year for the 50th we'd get something cool, but I highly doubt that that's going to happen. If you didn't know, back in 2019, the Black Series had their first HasLab, which was the Rancor. Looked so cool. It got really close to funding, but then there was a bit of like a hate campaign and people just started pulling out and it failed. And I do kind of get both sides. Obviously, I would have wanted it if I was collecting Black Series at that point, it looked really cool, but you know, some people wasn't a fan of it. They saw all the cardboard and like the bones that were like included with it, and you know, they started a hate campaign. After that, in 2022, I believe, when the Obi-Wan Kenobi show came out, there was a HasLab saber for Reva, the Inquisitor, which, in my opinion, shouldn't be counted as Black Series because it's roleplay, and I think they should just be counted as two different things. But I think it's kind of obvious that Hasbro thinks that they're both kind of the same thing and just kind of chalks both the losses up to Black Series fans not wanting HasLabs. A lot of fans of Black Series, you know, kind of year after year will ask for HasLabs. Stuff like the Republic gunship, which would be way too big. It'd be as big as my room. Stuff like the X-Wing, that is a bit more feasible, but would still be massive. There's just so many things that would be HasLab worthy that are just way too big for Black Series. I'd argue that the biggest vehicles that they can get away with is the A-Wing and Jedi Interceptor, because they're a pretty similar size to the Snowspeeder, which we already got. And also, personally, I just don't think a Black Series HasLab would do very well nowadays. So many people complain about the price of the figures being $28, and thankfully they're still £25 here, but it's pretty much the same price when you do conversions. So the fact that a HasLab would most likely be around $500, £500, I think a lot of people would be out. But then again, I guess it depends what it is. If it was something really cool like an X-Wing, maybe. I know I'd probably be in on that. But it all just depends on what people collect and what era it's from. I know a lot of people just don't like HasLabs to begin with. That's pretty much me. I think made to order is a way better thing to go for. Made to order just removes all of the problems from HasLab, and it's just a way healthier system for both Hasbro and the community. But yeah, overall, depending on what you think of HasLab, this is either a pro or a con. In my opinion, I think it's a pro that Black Series doesn't have to rely on HasLab like TVC does. Another con for Black Series is unfortunately just a lot of paint and accessories are lacking. Don't get me wrong, Black Series has gotten a lot better with this recently in 2026. For example, some of the Mandalorian and Grogu figures had washers on them, which we have not seen for such a long time. I think maybe with Mos Eisley was the last one we saw. They're very few and far between. And the same with accessories. We're starting to get more swappable heads, just more accessories in a box. Like, for example, the Deluxe Mandalorian that came out this year as well. Granted, you know, these are all new media figures, so they get a bit more budget. But, like, his box was packed. He had a lot of weapons, accessories, Grogu, everything with him that you need. For example, figures like Savage Opress, Rookcast, Watto, the Geonosian, that have got this intricate paint on them, and they still come with a ton of accessories as well. It's a really good time for Black Series, but it is few and far between. I think it's probably about 70-30. 70% of figures will just be one figure, not a lot of paint, an accessory, and then 30% will be like just where the team goes all out. So it does make it really confusing sometimes. Like, you'll see one figure that just looks like it has had no attention at all, and then another figure that is like a 10 out of 10. It is mind-boggling sometimes, and it confuses the hell out of me, especially when it's like two figures on the same line. And then another part of this is the removal of thigh swivel. If you didn't know, thigh swivel, you know, it's on most figures. It literally, well, you know, it's kind of obvious what it does. It allows you to swivel the thigh, get it into more dynamic poses. Around 2024, I want to say, I think end of 2024, Black Series started to phase out that thigh swivel, which I'm not a fan of. I think the new design where it's literally all just in the hips does not give enough range at all, and thigh swivel is literally just a line. It is a line across the thigh that is barely noticeable most of the time. I think it just adds too much articulation to be taken away, and it limits a lot of newer figures, like for example Rookcast, Cassian in the Sinar TIE Pilot disguise. It ruins figures for me personally. Like, I was really excited to pose with Rookcast, but just like trying to get her in some of the poses that she does in the show, it was just impossible. So thigh swivel needs to come back in my opinion. Especially for a 6-inch scale line like Black Series, that articulation is needed. And then the final con is there's not a lot of world building in Black Series. Granted, I was talking about us getting, more vehicles and stuff like that, and the diorama sets, but they are very few and far between. We've gotten 2 diorama sets with a third maybe coming next year, and then recently we've gotten a couple of vehicles, which is nice, but I'd still want more. Whereas TVC, they get these all the time. Of course, that is the world building scale, but if you are somebody who prefers to build out scenes rather than, build out characters, maybe Black Series isn't really for you, especially if you want kind of some of the play sets, stuff like the Cantina, the Ghost. If you want stuff like that, Black Series probably isn't the best. Overall, in my opinion, Black Series is the best Star Wars line. It's not my favourite. I vastly prefer Hot Toys, I prefer the scale, the detail, the likenesses, everything like that. But Black Series is great. It is the best Star Wars line. TVC doesn't come close. Hot Toys comes close in my opinion, and imports just do not release anything. They barely get any releases a year. Of course, you can put those with Black Series, which makes Black Series even better, kind of mixing lines, which is really good. But yeah, the fact that the character selection is really good at the moment, has been for years. It's like every year with Black Series, the community will go, 2025 has been the best year for Black Series. No doubt at the end of this year, 2026 will be the best year for Black Series. And then hopefully next year will be the best year for Black Series. It just keeps getting better and better. So I think that kind of speaks volumes for Black Series. It is an amazing line. It's so easy to build out. A lot of figures stay around retail, especially on the second-hand market, so you're going to be able to get them for pretty cheap. Of course, there are some cons, as I mentioned, like no thigh swivel, no HasLab, stuff like that, not being able to build out scenes, but 3D printed is great for that. Like Landspeeder Luke makes so many dioramas that go with Black Series. He even has hexagonal stands that you can put on shelves. It's the ideal line for Star Wars collectors in my opinion. While it's not my favourite, as I've said, I still do collect it. I'm very happy with the Black Series collection I have so far. It literally is just Star Wars 77, Knights of the Old Republic, and then Republic Commando. Anything else I'm not too bothered about in 1 and 12 scale. But I can safely say that 99% of the figures I own in Black Series are amazing. Of course there are nitpicks here and there, but yeah, Black Series is amazing. I think just the figures, the way they articulate, minus thigh swivel, is amazing. Most have all of the paint. Of course they're not 100% accurate. I don't think any line is. I don't even think Hot Toys are, and that's coming from a Hot Toys glazer. It's, there are stupid mistakes made. There are some very, very interesting releases that come out, like the May 4th ones with the battle droid that's inaccurate. But, this isn't a shitting on Black Series video. This is a pros and cons. So yeah, I think if you are a character-focused collector, go for Black Series. It's just ideal for you. If you like building out worlds, maybe not. If you prefer bigger figures, more articulation, maybe not. But if you want character representation, Black Series is the line for you. And that was the end of today's video. Thank you for watching, everybody. And what do you think of the Black Series? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. And I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.